Microsoft's big event has come and gone, and we've seen a lot and now know a lot more about the future of the Xbox brand and their first-party Xbox game studios. So let's run through all the biggest announcements and surprises we got from Xbox's massive games showcase. And before we kick off, just want to say a big thanks to all of you amazing new and old subscribers. Thank you so much for your support. If you like this video too, make sure you give it a like as well, share it on social media, and for those not subscribed, make sure you do that too. It really helps out a small creator like myself. Click the notifications bell so you can stay up to date with everything Direckt Gaming. But let's get right into it. This is the Xbox Games Showcase Review. We finally got to see Halo Infinite in action, and despite the negative reaction I keep seeing on social media, you know me by now, I'm a positive guy. So even though throughout this whole showcase there were some things I'd like to see improved, overall I have a pretty positive outlook on it, Halo included. What we got to see looks like a gameplay segment from right at the beginning of the game pretty much, but clearly there's been some action in between the last cutscene we saw at E3 last year, where Chief is awoken by our UNSC pilot, as clearly Master Chief already knows the Banished have set up shop on the damaged Halo. But seeing the camera pan into Chief's point of view and him taking his first steps onto the ring really and obviously brought back vibes of Halo Combat Evolved. The gorgeous vistas of the Halo are quickly interrupted by a pack of grunts and the fighting begins. My biggest takeaway from the Halo demo is that the fighting is slightly slower paced than Halo 5, the guns seem to pack a bit more of a punch, and the sound design is truly incredible. Also, it would appear that Halo Infinite is somewhat of an open game, but I think open world is taking it a bit too far, possibly more akin to God of War than Ghost of Tsushima. I'm just incredibly excited for Halo Infinite, releasing later this year, although I get the feeling that it could be delayed. However, even though this demo was apparently an earlier build meant for use at E3, there are some cracks in the visual style that are a bit jarring. The lack of ray tracing to show off the Xbox's power, and some strange art choices aside, I'm pumped to learn more, to see multiplayer, and to get my hands on Halo Infinite, whether it be in November this year or at a later date. This was a big surprise, although friend of the show Archimedes did predict this in one of his recent videos, so go check him out for some really great content. State of Decay 3 showed off a brilliant teaser trailer in an impressive snow-filled world and featuring some really great imagery of a zombified deer feeding on a wolf. Very cool. With talk recently on the internet about State of Decay 3 being a AAA title now that Undead Labs are entirely owned and funded by Microsoft. Even though this was a CG trailer, I would love for State of Decay 3 to actually have this kind of graphical fidelity on next generation hardware as we see in the trailer. After the incredible animations and performance capture of The Last of Us 2 showing what can be done on the current hardware, it would be of little surprise if we start to see this level of fidelity in many games over the next few years as developers really begin to harness the full power of the upcoming Series X. It's currently unknown at this point when State of Decay 3 will launch. Stay tuned on the channel though, because I've got an upcoming video that will give my predictions of the entire timeline of Xbox Game Studios titles over the next few years. One of my predictions from an earlier video, Forza Motorsport truly is boasting the power that Turn 10 have in their hands now with the Series X, and clearly wanted to show off their graphical prowess and a lot of ray tracing. With gorgeous lighting, many reflective surfaces, beautiful sound design, and shots of one of my favourite racetracks in the world, Laguna Seca, accompanied by incredibly high detailed vehicle and character models, Forza Motorsport, now dropping the numbered moniker, looks to be a serious powerhouse. Being billed as a Series X and PC only release, and it being stated that it's in early development, it's pretty fair to assume that the next entry in the Forza series is quite a way off. I don't have a problem with this necessarily, as I think it's good that Forza isn't being pushed out just to meet the launch date of the Series X, even though I'm incredibly excited to play this game. And the fact of the matter is, if it's targeting only these two systems, then the developers can truly take advantage of the next-gen hardware and build an incredibly powerful title with unmatched visuals and performance.
Our world has a rhythm. We all sense it. But only a few truly feel it.
Rare's new IP, Everwild, was announced at XO19 with just a short teaser, and even after the second trailer from the showcase, we know very little. Even then, I'm absolutely captivated by this title, with its incredibly unique art style, with beautiful colours, lighting, design, and effects, not to mention an absolutely awe-inspiring world that looks captivating and interesting. I think Everwild has the potential to be a really interesting new IP from the Sea of Thieves creators. I still don't know what we'll be doing in this game. Will there even be combat? Will we be saving creatures of the world? I'm not sure, but the beauty of this title is nearly unmatched, and I look forward to seeing much more in the months to come. This has quickly become one of my most anticipated games from the teams at Xbox 2 out of sheer fascination. Obsidian Entertainment proved in the Xbox Games Showcase that they aren't messing around, and in my opinion, they really stole the show with their 3 trailers and announcements. First, we saw the upcoming Outer Worlds DLC Peril on Gorgon, which looks like an awesome return to a game that I absolutely adored when it released last year. With loads of interesting characters and brilliant writing, I can see this expansion bringing many players back into the game when it releases on September 9th, and will give us a whole new area to explore on the titular asteroid Gorgon. Next, Obsidian proved that they have the best sense of humour in the industry, with their trailer for Grounded giving hilarious props to Cyberpunk 2077 as the biggest game of the year, and then showing off some new features and fun gameplay for their upcoming tiny survival game. This game actually seems like it'll be a treat to play, lots of co-op fun to be had, exploring and surviving in the backyard. They announced it'll be available on the Insiders program in just a few days as well. I'll be sure to give it a shot and report back in a future video. Finally, the head of Obsidian, Fergus Urquhart, gave us RPG fans exactly what we wanted with Obsidian's very own One More Thing moment midway through the showcase, and we got a teaser for the much rumoured AAA RPG with all the financial backing and support from Microsoft. This is apparently the reason why Microsoft wanted Obsidian, and I can see why. Avowed is a first-person RPG set in Aora, part of the Pillars of Eternity universe, so be prepared for some incredibly in-depth lore, monumental world building, and by the looks of things, some seriously gorgeous graphical style. Although the trailer was again CG, and this game will be years away from completion, I think this trailer showed us a representation of what Obsidian want to do with the graphical style of this title. When the arrow falls into the cave at the end of the teaser, and then the player character stands up in first-person view, there were so many similarities to the lighting and environment design as to what we saw in the Unreal Engine 5 demo reel, with Megascan style rock formations and level of detail, and gorgeous trace lighting and shadows. The fact is, Obsidian are finally a powerhouse for not only incredible storytelling, but now have the financial support to really come into their own with no limits, and Avowed will be their biggest release of their long and hugely respected history. Bloober Team once again showed off their exciting upcoming Series X exclusive that will be dropping alongside the new console later this year, and showed their incredibly ambitious dual reality gameplay. 2 worlds, the spirit and the real world, will be rendered simultaneously, and will allow the player to interact with both worlds whenever they want. If you've played Dishonored 2, this really reminds me of the Mansion mission, which allowed you to jump between the past and the present with an incredibly fascinating gameplay mechanic. Although if you've watched my channel from any period of time, I really don't do horror at all, but I'm all in with the medium to see what this game is all about and how it uses the power of the Series X to render 2 worlds at the same time, and allows the player to seamlessly switch between them. I can see why Xbox are really pushing this game as a showcase for what the Series X is capable of in a game design aspect, and I hope the story of the medium is something we can remember long after the start of the generation. Finally, after Matt Booty closed out the show, he gave fans one more thing. The worst kept secret in the industry, yet it still had me absolutely hyped seeing the Playground Games name show up on screen in a lush fantasy world, backed by a very British voiceover in imagery of a magical landscape and a fairy that inevitably gets eaten by a toad. It could only be Fable. Seeing it retain its sense of humour and British flair has me so excited for the return and, by the looks of things, reboot of such an incredible series. My excitement for Xbox's first-party RPGs has been growing for some time now, and to see that we have a first-person dark fantasy title in Avowed in the works, as well as a third-person quirky and humorous reboot of one of the greatest and most unique RPG series ever, means Xbox players will get one hell of a lineup of role-playing games next generation. With In Exile working on something AAA as well, RPG fans have so much to be excited for, and seeing the Fable logo and a beautiful shot of Albion is one hell of a way to finish a conference. With Playground's job listings advertising this as an open world action RPG, and it being another game specifically aimed at the Series X, the next Fable title will be something of beauty, and the talented developers at Playground will really be able to bring this world to life with the power of the next generation. I've left some games out like Psychonauts 2, which has now been delayed to 2021, but looks like a lot of colourful and crazy fun. Hellblade 2, which was announced as Series X and PC only, but we didn't get any gameplay, so we can only assume this is at least a year or two away still. And some of the partner games like Stalker 2, Crossfire X, and Destiny 2 coming to Game Pass with all of its expansions. There is so much more to dissect, so make sure you check out the upcoming episode of our podcast Controllers and Coffee for a deep breakdown of everything we saw and a huge discussion featuring myself, Kat Gerritsen, and some special guests. But what are the big takeaways from this event? Well, AAA games are coming. Xbox showed that their game studios lineup is something to get really excited about, and the new acquisitions and partnerships that Microsoft are creating are really giving so much to create great new experiences for players. New IPs are on the way, like Avowed, although technically it's part of the Pillars universe, Everwild and The Medium, and beloved franchises aren't being left behind either, like Forza Motorsport and Fable. The real message of this event is definitely the value of Game Pass. When you buy an Xbox Series X or when you play on PC and you have a Game Pass subscription, you will get everything you see in this show, and this is a ridiculous value proposition for players of all types. Some third-party titles I'm sure will eventually leave Game Pass, as they most inevitably do over time, but more will take their place, and when they're part of Game Pass, players can pick them up for a discount to continue playing them if they do leave the service. But first-party games, Xbox Game Studios games, will not leave, and that is a huge boon for players. With Halo starting the generation and so many games announced to look forward to over the next few years at least, this is really just the beginning, and I think Xbox have made an incredible showing for what is to come for their brand. Despite the negativity I see on the internet, which is no surprise, I'm pumped for what Xbox have lined up for the future if you choose to play on PC or Series X. But what did you think of the Xbox Games Showcase? What did you love and what did you hate? And what do you still want to see from Xbox Game Studios moving forward? Let me know in the comments below and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any content leading up to the next generation. I'm working on another video to release later this week too, and Controllers and Coffee is available right here or in audio form on your favourite podcast platforms, so check that out every single week wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks an absolute ton for watching, and thank you all for your support. It really means a lot. Until next time, peace.